and welcome to another episode of the Jim Powell Report. I'm your host, Jim Powell. We're really glad you're watching our show tonight because we've got a really special guest. We've got the world traveler and musician, Joe Keenan. He's just come back from a world travel where he was working and sailing and learning all about different islands, and we're just so glad to have him here in our studio to talk with us today. And Joe, I'm glad you're here. You brought your guitar too.
It's great to be here, yep. Picked up the guitar and came over after work, so I'm still in my work clothes.
All right, well, it's good to be working.
Yeah, exactly.
Working and singing. You got some stories to tell. So you're on the Pitcairn Castle.
The Pitcairn Castle, I got back a year and a half ago, so it's already starting to get to be old news, but I think I finally arrived about 6 months ago, actually.
And you traveled out of, what harbor did you
We
sail
left out of Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, and we went south through the Panama Canal, across the Pacific Ocean, south of the equator mostly, and then up around Australia to Bali, and through the Indian Ocean to South Africa, and then up through the Atlantic to the Caribbean, and then back.
Oh, amazing.
And stopped a lot along the way. So.
Yeah, you got to smell the roses, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
That's neat. And you went to a lot of islands.
Mm-hmm.
And being here from Martha's Vineyard Island, you know, you went out, and what are some of the comparisons and differences?
For me, that was one of the most interesting things, and it really didn't kick in until I got back, and I got back home here, and in a way realized how much home it is. You know, it was interesting. Instead of driving around and seeing people, I'd walk along State Road, and people would stop, you know, because I hadn't been here for 13 months, you know.
Yeah.
And who knows, I probably owed them all $5 or whatever. But the thing about it was, I think, and it did take a long time since I've been back to sort of get back, but it made me realize my place here, kind of, or that I had a place here.
Mm-hmm.
And in the sense that it was an island, I met all these people from these small tribes and villages, you know, all across the Pacific, and even really almost everywhere we went. And you realize the interconnectedness of everybody. Mm-hmm. And one person has this job and one person has that job, and everybody knows who that person is. You know, it's very much obviously like what we have here, except for it kind of gets diluted in the summertime. You know? In the wintertime here is more where people crunch together and take care of each other, and you know.
But that's the draw and the wonder of our island, as I'm sure it is the adventure of going out and seeing other islands, is seeing how they live in their island lifestyles.
Yeah, I think the key to it is that we're isolated, even though we have the boat, you know, until 7:30 at night or whatever it is in the wintertime. Don't get me going.
Yeah.
It causes us to be isolated. And if the storm comes or if the boats go down, there we are. We're a lot more like some Pacific island than obviously, you know, some inland town is.
Right.
We're shut off. And these places are shut off in a much more, I don't know what the word is, they're just much more shut off. I mean, you look at Pitcairn Island, and Pitcairn Island is sort of the southeast of the Pacific, one of the first islands you get to if you're coming south from the Panama, one that you can get to. And it's used to be a big traveling route from Panama to go to French Polynesia, Margarita, Tahiti, and all that. Mm-hmm. So they'd always have cruise ships going by, but now the cruise ships have changed their courses. And the people on Pitcairn used to always make their money by taking their boat out and going out to the cruise ships and selling their wares. Mm-hmm. Well, now that's stopped, and it's very rare that they have a cruise ship or a cargo ship. So they're, even in this day and age, you know, really cut off for much of the time, you know. So it was much more intense seclusion, but it was not something unlike what we experience here, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but as you traveled along, I'm sure that you had an opportunity to see things that, well, I can just imagine how beautiful it must have been out on the water and seeing sunrises and sunsets.
It was really nice to be back out at sea, you know.
Storms?
We had one storm coming in Namibia. When we get out of South Africa, we were going to go stop in Namibia, and just as we got to the port, this was a total classic thing had happened to me as cook. You know, in South Africa, the captain said, well, we'll be able to buy more veggies and fruit and everything else in Namibia. So I didn't stock as much as I would have had I known we were going to get this storm and not be able to get into port. So what happened was we went up the coast for a couple days, whatever. We were just getting to the port of Luderitz, and this big storm came up, and we said, hey, we're just going to go to sea. So we just took off and went towards St. Helena, which was another 20-day trip or whatever. So there I was, I almost got caught with my pants down there, as far as what you could buy, obviously you're not going to get anything. And but we made it.
Yeah, I see you're here.
Yeah, that was one. And then the only other one, we had a little bit of a trouble off the coast of Venezuela. For me, as in the galley, we had a cross sea, and cross seas are obviously when the seas are coming to the side of the ship in relation to the direction you're going. And so that makes the ship bounce like this. And depending on the ship, its motion, each ship is different. And it just so happened that the swells were the right height to keep it so that when the boat would go, heel to one side, it would still be heeling to that side by the time the second wave came, so it would then go again. And that's the worst scenario in a galley, because usually things they're sort of static. They become stuck in their position as they move because they're all tied in together. But as soon as you get a knock on the ship or the motion changes, that's when things start flying.
Have to nail the plates down to the table.
That time out of Namibia, what happened was we took a wave on the aft on the starboard side, and it ended up going in the engine room and knocking out the power. So I had a diesel-fired stove with a blower on the front of it, and so now I couldn't have the blower, so I couldn't use the stove. So I had to rig up a propane deal and kind of wedge myself against something, have another crew member hold the pot, another one hold the thing.
And how many people are you trying to feed?
50.
50 people?
Excuse me. Yeah.
Oh,
so
man.
and talk about plates. They didn't use plates at that point. It was just there was a little like a Dutch door in the galley. So we opened up the top half and just gave them bowls of chow. And,
Yeah.
So it was a lot of little funny things like that.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Well, besides this world tour, you've been involved in lots of different things over your lifetime. You're a very well-known and respected roofer, carpenter here on the island, and I know we've got one of your CDs here called Joe Keenan Balance. It's got you right up on the
top there,
peak of the roof there. And
I was going to do it where you just see the feet falling off the other side of the roof.
Yeah, that was one of the outtakes.
Nobody really went for that.
Well, this is really good. Both of these, you have about 4 or 5 CDs now, don't you?
Yeah.
That's good.
Getting ready to do another one, I think.
Well, maybe the trip around the world gave you a little bit more time to think about some things.
Yeah, definitely.
Inspiration.
Yeah, I did a lot of more instrumental stuff. I didn't have a lot of time on the boat. You pretty much
you were
go
busy.
from 4:30 till 6:30
Yeah.
every day.
Well, you've written ancient songs. You've written songs about balance in life, a lot of different things. Maybe you'll write some about heeling over in a boat or something.
Maybe so, yeah.
But maybe you could share a song with us.
Yeah,
just to get started.
I have a little instrumental. I'm trying to get into playing instrumentals now. I don't do a lot of them, so I got a couple of them for you.
All right, let's hear what you got.
And the interesting thing about this one is, a friend of mine is John Cruz. I don't know if you ever remember Johnny Cruz, but he's out in Hawaii. He's doing great. He just had a new album come out, of which one of my songs is on it. And he used to play what they call slack key style tuning, which is when you change the tuning of the guitar. And I've always played Irish style open tuning. So when we met, it was mostly because he could see that I wasn't playing the guitar the regular way. I was playing it closer to the Hawaiian style, in the sense of how it's tuned. And so I used to always try to learn these riffs that he'd do that were Hawaiian style riffs, And it wasn't until I think I finally sailed right across the Pacific that it came and I got it, kind of thing. So that's sort of what it's a sort of mixture between the two. Missed a couple, but you know.
Beautiful. That was nice. Nice organization. Beautiful chords.
Thank you.
Just love your sound, and sure have enjoyed all the CDs, and I've listened to this CD so many times. I know I've cracked the cover, and when I've been working around the farmhouse, and I sure have enjoyed your music.
Well, that's good.
People might want to give you a call.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm out of stock right now, but maybe in a month or so I should have more.
Yeah, well, we'll keep playing the show for a while, and
Cool.
people can. We'll flash your phone number up on the screen for Joe Keenan. If you want to call in, and to this phone number, you can reach Joe. And what's that number?
It's 508-560-2662.
Okay, we're going to flash that up on the screen. Please call in to Joe Keenan so that you can get some orders for some of these great CDs. And you've been a musician, you've been an actor, you've sailed, you got a background. Your family was in acting a little
Well,
bit.
my father was in television and radio back in even the beginnings, kind of in the early 50s of TV.
General Electric.
Yeah, he used to do he was the writer, director, and a producer for GE Theater.
A lot of
when
people
I was
got their
a kid,
start and went on to really make it.
When I was a kid in elementary school, we used to do the local TV thing and the news and the and the sports for the the elementary school. It was great. We had a really good AV department.
Mm-hmm.
And so then from that, I did do a bunch of acting all through school, high school, a little bit afterwards. And then I think at that point I decided I wanted to write my own material. And I had been singing through that period as well, classical mostly. And although I was in the high school rock band, which is kind of a riot, we used to do Aerosmith and Rolling Stones and, all the typical tunes, yeah. And so then I started playing guitar myself when I was about 18. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, I got a long way to go, but
Oh no!
time is
great. And the story you tell, I really enjoyed the songs. I always remember this Band of Crows.
Right.
I know it's your first song there, but a lot of other ones here. Grave Digger and I Me Boys, a sea chanty.
Right.
And just the Vineyard Martha's Vineyard is such a great fertile seedbed for musicians and guitarists, and they all have a story to tell. There's something special about our island. That's what we want to communicate a little bit. Maybe you've got a story you want to tell.
Well, I do have a story, but it's actually about a different island.
Okay.
I'm one of the projects I'm working, and it's true about this island, and I think that was one of the reasons why I was so attracted to it when I first came here, is because it's so artist friendly. Mm-hmm. And you can be a tradesman and you can be some kind of artist, and when you need to go off and do your art, the other tradesmen understand it. Mm-hmm. And they say, okay, go, when are you going to come back? And that's fine. Mm-hmm. Whereas elsewhere, it tends to be more of a problem. And I think that's probably because once you get good tradesmen here, you want to keep them around. Mm-hmm. So I've been able to practice my trades, which are siding, carpentry, roofing, and I've also been able to somehow practice a little bit of the music side of it. So anyway, this one is about, one of my projects, I'm working on a book of vignettes of all the sea cooking and traveling. It's sort of a memoir sort of deal. Mm-hmm. And this comes from the island of Vanuatu, which is the country of Vanuatu, the island of Malekula. And it's about, it's about food, we'll say. Mm-hmm. As a result of being the cook on a square rig or bound round the world, when you get the chance to spend time ashore with newly found friends, invariably the conversation turns to food. The preparations of food, the various kinds of food to be found locally, the trials of the job, etc. So it was one night in the village on the island of Malekula, in the far-flung Pacific country of Vanuatu. The captain and I were with Dixon, the chief, the heir apparent, his wife and her brother at their home, which was a palm frond shack with dirt floors and a raised platform where everybody slept. We had spent the evening at a kava party, given in honor of the arrival of our ship to this rarely frequented place. Kava is a drink, a term I use loosely here, made out of mashed root of the kava plant, a mild narcotic, which gives one a pleasant sense of being and a slightly numbed mouth. As a drink, it goes down hard. It is thick and it tastes of the earth, and the coconut cup full is usually downed in one shot. So we had a fair bit of what some term as the foulest of brews, and Dixon had offered us some whiskey back at his pad. The room was dark, lit by a kerosene lantern, and we all sat on the ground as was the custom, or costume, as they say in those parts, K-A-S-T-O-M. As we sat and drank, we talked lightly, as newfound friends do. Vanuatu and her people are closely related to the tribes of Papua New Guinea. As such, it is one of the places on the planet that is known for having the costume of eating people. I use the past tense here, but as conversation turned from pleasantries to more broad questions and answers, the captain and I broached the question of this most ancient of taboo practices. Taboo is a word that actually has meaning in the present-day usage in Vanuatu. Unlike its use in the English language, which generally refers to social mores, there are many things that are taboo or forbidden. Places can be taboo, and there are often localized ways of stating when a particular place or action is taboo. A coconut frond placed in a particular way, for example. Dixon was our friend, and we felt comfortable enough to pass over the taboo of questioning our host. So we posed the question, and the answer we received was a bit surprising. Having the teacher for dinner. Dixon, tell us of the practice of eating people, if you would. We have heard from others that it has been done in the not-so-distant past. Okay, Captain, and Mr. Joe, there is a story, and it is a true one. And I will tell it to you, this story. It is maybe 10 years since this thing is done, and it is a true story. In another place on this island, on Malekula, there was this teacher, and he was having sex with one of his students. Well, the family of the girl discovered that this was what was happening, and so they got him, and they cut him with a knife, and so he was dead. And after that, they used a knife, and they cut him up to pieces, and so they began eating him. This is the story, and it is a true one. After a moment to, how shall I say, swallow the tale, I spoke up. That's a bit intense. I mean, these people didn't like what was going on, so they said, we'll just eat the guy. That is the way it was in those times. You see, before it was custom. If someone was doing something that was wrong, then the people could be deciding if they should be eating him. So what stops people now from eating people, I asked. Well, Mr. Joe, this is it. You see, now the people do not want this thing as custom. Now it is taboo. If the people are wanting to be eating people, if I am chief, then I must make it the custom. It is the people who say what they want. Very egalitarian, I thought. I was also glad that they weren't really in the mood for chief cook soup. So we had a nice evening with Dixon and his family. He and I actually became quite good friends. I was taken by the music of his village, and when we departed, we had another in a long line of feasts. He presented me with a mat that is worn by men in ceremonies. I was tempted even to get some recipes, but after a bit of thought, I realized that the crew was having a hard enough time with the taro and the manioc, and it would get to be a bit burdensome if we had to have a head count at every meal. I also try to find out about the local game and the history of the uses of various foods. In the case of Vanuatu, if I wanted to find out what a former delicacy looked like, I had merely to look in a mirror.
Wow. Just 10 years ago.
Yeah, apparently. And I think it's a it was a touchy situation, obviously. But I think in Polynesia, it's not odd for the people that have affairs even when they're a lot younger than here. So I think that was what was really going on.
Yeah, but just studying that, what a great chance to learn a little bit about cultural anthropology by going there to Vanuatu and learning that that was the way that they regulated.
It was actually for punishment. It was actually punishment.
And that, if you get eaten, that's a...
Well, I think also it's more that the food supply is much more limited. So, for them to make that jump wasn't that difficult.
Maybe they wouldn't want to waste the body or have it get resurrected or come back and haunt them,
Yeah.
Get rid of
obviously, it's hard for us to fathom, but...
but it works for them.
Yeah, and you couldn't go there and I mean, that's why we broached the subject slowly, because, of course we were interested in it. This is where the cannibals come from, all that area, And we had one funny experience where I was with another chief on another island, and I always ended up hanging out with the chiefs for some reason. Maybe it was because I was called the chief cook, and the chief is someone that serves people. And so they had this kind of respect for me. So I ended up hanging out with the chiefs. I was with this one chief, and we were with a guy that was a little bit on the pudgy side, one of the crew, and the guy asked the chief, you know, what about cannibalism, you know, tell us a story. He says, well, I will tell you that whenever there was a pudgy baby, they would have to give the baby to the village to eat the baby. And then he looked over at the guy and he says, you must have been a pudgy baby. Yeah. To the kid, and the kid was like, no, you know. Yeah. But he was just joking around. Yeah. You know.
But that's a great story.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, tell us some more how this travel went along here.
Well, it was, you know, it was kind of a mind-blowing experience, really.
You're in Vanuatu, and then you headed out.
From Vanuatu, we went. I think that was where we took off to go to Bali. Mm-hmm. So we went up around, unless we went to Fiji again. But I think what happened from there, we went up around Australia into Bali. Mm-hmm. And Bali was again, I mean, the thing that's interesting when you're traveling on a ship and you show up in one of these places, you have a place that's much more like a home than you would if you were staying in a hotel or a motel. So you interface with the people in a much different way, because for one thing, I was going in all these villages with, you know, loads of money, buying all this food and everything. Immediately people recognized that here was a guy that had a lot of money that was buying a lot of things. So, you know, so you meld with the people in a different way. And I found that everywhere I went. And so it was really fortunate to have that experience of being the chief cook on a ship and getting to meet the locals and finding out, you know, finding the people who could find me the food. You know,
the real people.
Yeah, and so I ended up spending the majority of my time with the real people that were in a lot of time every place I went. You know, they got to know me in the marketplaces, et cetera, et cetera.
You talked about manioc, and
taro, and guava, and all the
different
tropical fruits. I was thinking about it yesterday. I was going through Kronig's, and pumpkin everywhere. Things that you wouldn't normally associate with. I had never really associated with the tropics, especially the little bit southern. Pumpkin was a big one. Now, of course, they can call everything pumpkin that's a gourd, or they'll call everything, you know.
Stores well.
Say again?
It stores well too.
Yeah, yeah, but it grows in that environment. Which I come from Western Mass, where we grew squash and pumpkins and corn and everything.
Oh, best in the state.
Yeah, but I never would consider, obviously, that tropical, right? So they did a lot of that, a lot of avocado, mangoes. The thing that's cool in the tropics with mangoes is that there's usually in the town a big tree. And in the morning, really early in the morning, it tended to be guys. They would all hang out and throw sticks up at the mangoes so that they drop down, and then that's breakfast, you know.
I know.
Yeah.
When I lived in Guatemala, we had a big mango tree right in the yard. And we had a lemon tree in the front yard and a mango tree in the backyard.
Yeah, I mean, we got apple trees, but you know, you don't see a bunch of guys hanging out under the apple tree.
That's true. Yeah.
You know?
Well, we've got about 5 minutes left here.
I got one more song to do for you.
I would love to hear another.
This is a new one. It's called Whirl and Twirl. I've been playing this around. I haven't recorded
Whirl and Twirl.
Whirl and Twirl. Well, it lifts me up and then it knocks me down. Gathers me up and then spreads me around. Just a little part of the big old world. Get that feeling, wanna whirl and twirl. I rise up in the morning with the sun and say, hey, go to work and it seems like play. Get a little notion that life is so fine. Every little moment I can feel the light shine, shine on. Well, I had a little heartache and I had a lot of joy. Sometimes I feel like I'm just God's toy. He gives me pleasure, then he gives me pain. He washes me off with the summer rain. I rise up in the morning with the sun and say, hey, go to work and it seems like play. Get a little notion that life is so fine. Every little moment I can feel the light shine, shine on. So when I get low, I know it's 'cause I got high. Down to the depths and up to the sky. Doesn't really matter, just a moment in time. Wait another minute, gonna all be fine. Rise up in the morning with the sun and say, hey, go to work and it seems like play. Get a little notion that life is so fine. Every little moment I can feel the light shine, shine on. So I walk down the road, I'm a brand new man, doing my best wherever I can. Say hey to the elders and the children having fun. I get that feeling that we really are one. Rise up in the morning with the sun and say, hey, go to work and it seems like play. Get a little notion that life is so fine. Every little moment I can feel the light shine, shine on. Well, it lifts me up and then it knocks me down. Gathers me up and then spreads me around. Just a little part of the big old world. I get that feeling, wanna whirl and twirl. I get that feeling, wanna whirl and twirl. I get that feeling, wanna whirl and twirl.
Oh, that was rich. That's great.
Okay, cool.
Whirl and twirl.
Whirl and twirl.
I love the stories you tell.
Thanks,
I
man.
love everything that you did about that song. And the chords and the feeling. And, you know, life is about how you live and keep that feeling with you and how you share that with others, you know, and the balance you have when you, I bet you when you go out sailing, that's, you know, you're serving, you're working, but it's kind of for you to help keep you in balance, you know?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think in my case, I've always had a bit of wanderlust since I was a little kid, and I think sailing brought it all together. It was like a place where you could live and then you're traveling at the same time.
Yeah.
And boats are particularly the kind of community where it's all, everybody's got to pitch in towards the middle, you know. If you start thinking about yourself, you might as well just not be there, really.
Joe, that's a wonderful philosophy to share.
Thanks,
And
man.
we want to thank you for sharing your time with us today. Time
My
has flown.
pleasure, my pleasure.
Yeah. We want to thank our audience for watching this special episode of the Jim Powell Report with Joe Keenan, world traveler and musician. Thanks for watching. I'm Jim Powell, your host. Thanks to our sponsor, Humphrey's Bakeries, and thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon.